everyone, welcome back to Straight Up Finance. In this video, we'll learn how to use the offset function in Excel. And if I just tell you some brief outline about what the offset function is and what the offset function does. So basically, offset function returns a value, or you can say a range, that is a certain number of rows and columns away from a starting cell. For example, if this is my starting cell, F17 right now where my cursor is. So what the offset will do is it will return me a value or a range that is certain number of rows and columns away from this starting cell, or you can also call it as your reference point. So in simple terms, it allows your Excel to move dynamically across your data. For example, if I just break it down for you, so this is how we use the offset function. So you'll see that you have reference here, you have rows, columns, heights, and width, right? So reference is basically your starting point, that from where you want to give it the address. So it is your starting point that you want to go this much rows down, this much columns to the right, to the left. If you'll give a positive number in your row, it will go down. If you'll give a negative number, it will go up. I'll show you how it works, right? So reference is basically your starting point. Rows is basically how many rows you want to move up or down. So that will be determined by a positive number or a negative number you put in your rows. Columns is how many columns you want to move. And if you want to, instead of going to one cell, you want a range, you want the offset to pick a range. So there comes your height and width. So it will basically, with your height and width, you'll determine the size of your returned range. So we'll see all that. So for example, let's say if I want to pick this number I want to locate it, right? I want to reach out at this number and using offset, right? So basically someone said to me that just try and pull December's revenue here. So if we have to pull this number which we have in F13 using offset, so how will we apply it as? So this is our function. Now first we want to give the reference. Now our reference is our starting cell. It can be anything. For example, it can be this as well, or it can be this as well. For example, if I want to apply my offset from A2. So this is my starting point. Now how many rows down I want to go? So if I see it from here, this is going to be 11 rows down, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So I want to go 11 rows down. So I'll just simply write 11 here. And if you see how many columns, so from this starting cell, how many columns to the right I am willing to go, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 columns. So I'll just go and write a 5 here, and you'll see it will pull 3,50,000 for me. So this is how it works for us, right? We can also pull that 3,50,000 from this cell as well. So if we start our reference from A13 instead of A2, so now we don't want to move our row, right? We don't want to go down. We'll keep it 0. And we want the columns to shift 5 times. So this will also give me the same answer. Now let's say if I want to, with the same formula, I want to pick this number. Right. So now instead of going one row down, I want to go one row up. So when we want to go one row up, we put it in minus. So if I just say -1, it will pick 1,62,000 for me. Or if I want to pick this 450, so I can simply add a 4 here. This is how it will work. So basically, in simple terms, offset is a function which basically returns a value or a range that is a certain number of rows or column away from your starting point, your reference point, right? Where do we use such kinds of functions? For example, if I could think of something, for example, let's say we have some dates here. Let me plot a real example for you. So let's say the year is 2025. And then your month is 1 and your day is 31. So this is my January, right? If I give it a format, let's give this format. Then if I go on and just plot some months here, right? So I have these 12 months here. Let me just increase the column width. Yeah. So I have these 12 months here, and let's say I have some numbers here. This is 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, like this, right? And this is my, for example, this is something, let's say, expense accrued, right? So this is some expense which is getting accrued every month, right? I am having this expense of 10,000, but I'm not paying this expense. So what is happening here is I want to pay this expense every let's say March, right? So how will this functioning go is, if I want to make a payment in every March, so I can write something here like expense paid, and let's say if I have to make a payment in every March, so I can write a formula here, something, and in the March I want to pay for all these 3 months, right? So I'll use a formula like, let's say if month of this divided by 3, like I want to pay at the end of every quarter. So I'm just saying that if month of this, or for example right now let's just do it in March, so I'll write a very simple formula. If month of this is equals to 3, then use an offset, right? Use an offset. The reference is going to be this only, right? I want to start from here only. I want to say that always go to -2, -1 and -2. Like if I'm standing here, if I'm going to copy this formula, this is going to be my cell reference, right? So go -2 times. I don't want you to sorry, it will be 0. I actually want to shift the columns, so it will be -2, and I don't want any height, but I want the width to be 3, and so this will pick a range for me, and I want to sum it up. Otherwise just give me a 0. So if I come here, can you see it gave me the sum of all these 3? I'll just add a minus here. So what I exactly did here is I told the offset that from this starting point go 2 columns behind, 1, 2, and from there pick a width of 3. So width of 3 means these 3 cells, and I added a sum before the offset to, so because this offset will give me a range, and that sum column will do a sum of that particular range. So if I, let's say, copy this formula, and we can make it obviously dynamic, we can add a mod there and do a division of the mod to have a payment in every quarter. But for now, let's say I just change it to 6, so it will give me a -30,000 here also. So this is how we use these kinds of formula. This was just one application of this formula, but offset is extensively used when we do a lot of things. We make a lot of financial models, a lot of complex calculations needs to be done, different dynamic functionalities need to be added. So offset is very helpful in those scenarios. If you so yeah, that is it from my side on offset. If you have any queries, any suggestions, any doubts, to drop a comment and we can connect. Thank you.